Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Wonderful morning today. Wonderful day. Beautiful, beautiful day in Israel. Shem should just help that we get all of the prisoners back and we get all of the enemies out. And here is charity. We'll start the day off by giving charity. Charity box. Charity saves from all bad things and it brings all good things. Charity. Do it. Give. Give, and God will give to you. We learned that Aaron is the one who brings love of God to the world in a big way, a big, all-consuming, love of God. That a person realizes how infinitely good God is and how compatible we are to God. What does it mean when you love somebody? Loving somebody means that the person is compatible with you, right? You're harmonious with one another. Harmonious with one another. It's exactly what you've been wanting. That's what love is, right? A person loves money. It gives him what he needs. That's what he thinks. Gives the person what he needs or what he wants. So the more money, the more he loves it, right? Sometimes you can go overboard, but with loving God, in a way, you can't go overboard. That's what the Torah is for. The Torah is to teach us how to love God, how to express that love of God. So the Rebbe said that, therefore, this love that Aaron brings into the world, that Jews are able, and from the Jews, the whole world are able to feel the goodness of God, the oneness of God, the infinite distance of God, the infinite closeness of God. The Jews can feel all this is because of this man called Aaron. In every generation, there has to be a person like that. In our generation, an example is the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Those are the things we're reading about from the Rebbe's of Chabad. How to feel God, what to think about, how to feel that God is creating it. But you have to have vessels, and those vessels, in order to hold that love, so it doesn't get out of control or that it doesn't become selfish, etc. And the vessels, that's the Torah. Okay, so the Rebbe said there's three people who make these vessels. One, the garments. Three people make the garments of Aaron. Moses is one. the what is it? The wise artisans, Chachmei Lev, the people wise, and then everybody, all the Jews. Okay, so we said one aspect of these garments is Moses. What's Moses? Moshe was drawn out from the water, we said. And this Moshe, that's the aspect of these garments, namely Torah and commandments, to draw down, to reveal in this world more and more godliness. That's what it means. Adam, a person, we did this before, but I want to go over it. Then we can start the next one. Ha'adam, a person who mamshich, he draws down va'ose otan mitzvot, and he makes them into commandments. If you do the commandments and you don't have any sort of feeling for doing it, we'll learn that that's minimum. That's the minimum criterion, and you pass. You get a passing degree. What is a C? Average, right there. But you want to get an A in doing the commandments is you have to have a tremendous love for God. And I'm sorry, and these garments, the commandments themselves, they draw godliness into the world. What does it mean it draws God into the world? It makes the world more healthy. It makes the world more, meaningful in everything and to everyone. It's a little bit harder to be selfish. It's for the whole world. It's harder for the world to be aggressive. It's harder for them. They can if they want to. That's why usually the people who hate Jews, they hate life. Usually. That's why you see the Nazis, the communists, these people, they killed millions and millions of people. And in the center of their sights of the target was always the Jews, because the Jews are here ideally to make the world a healthy place, to make the world a meaningful place, a blessed place, a godly place. In this we can understand the whole idea of making a blessing on the commandments. That's like blessings on the wedding. In Judaism, when when there's a wedding, so there's 7 blessings that are said under the wedding canopy. It's the blessings of the says of the of a wedding and of a with the engagement and wedding. Like it says in the Zohar, there's no blessing unless there's a male and a female. What does it mean? Male means that coming down, giving, and female is the receiver. So there has to be a mashpia and a makabel. When you do the commandments, you have to feel that the commandments that the commandments come from God and that you are receiving this tosfos for riboy, and then you get an extra additional blessing into the commandments from above, from a very, very high place. Like it says, like Moses was drawn out of the water. This is the aspect of the commandments that draws godliness into the world. Makes a wedding between the bride and the groom. The groom in this case is God, and the bride is us. Again, I just want to stress again that the main point of Judaism is to make this world holy. There's very little stress on heaven in Judaism. Very little stress. The main stress is this physical world. And when you do the commandments, which are usually physical things, even the commandments of loving God and think you're doing with your physical heart, your emotions, is it makes this world more holy, like a holy temple. That's the garments of Aaron. Aaron is love of God, and he has to have garments. So nowadays the garments of the commandments, even back then it was, when Aaron was actually alive, it was actually. So when you do a commandment, you have to understand that it's a marriage. It's getting married. Asher kirishanu b'mitzvot. We make a commandment. Asher kirishanu. Kiddushin means to get married. That you married us with your commandments. Like it says, Zachar and Akeva Boram. Like it says that God created male and female, and he blessed them. There's only a blessing when there's these two together, the giver and the receiver. This drawing down, this is the level of Moses. This is above the whole entire creation. It draws down from above the creation into the creation. That's what happens when a Jew puts on tefillin, when he gives charity, when he does the most simple commandment. Eats matzah on Passover. Lokach, therefore, Bayom, in the day that the Mishkan was set up, it says, Vayaviu at the Mishkan to Moshe, they brought the Mishkan that said, Moses said, Vahi Noam Hashem Elokeinu Aleinu. It's a psalm of King David. Which psalm is it? I forget. Noam Hashem Elokeinu. It's one of the psalms, certainly is. But which psalm is it? I'll tell you in a minute. I'll tell you in 1 minute. 1 minute, I'll tell you which psalm it is. I know it's not necessary to know this, but it's nice to know. Here we go. Truma, Tetzaveh. Wow, look at that. Here we go. Tetzaveh. So this is all right. Let's see. Let's get this here. $64. All right. I really shouldn't have taken this time up, but I did. So it's too late now. Here we go. It said, Yehi Noam Hashem Elokeinu. Anyways, one of the Psalms of King David. I'll have to look it up. I got confused over here. Noam Hashem Elokeinu Aleinu. Okay, after that it goes Yeshua B'Seisер Elyon. All right, we'll find it later. I'm sorry. Give me a minute. You know what? There we go. 164. Give me a second. This is pay base, right? Pays base. Okay, so I was looking in the wrong place. Excuse me 1 minute. There we go. Good. Here we go. I'm sorry. Okay, my mistake. I shouldn't have begun this. It's not here. I guess everybody should know this. And when Moses set up the tabernacle, so he said, Yehi Noam Hashem Elokeinu Aleinu. He said this psalm that the pleasure of God should be on us. What can you do? Sometimes I just forget things. Here we go. Why? Because when he set up the Mishkan, which was a commandment, so then God answered him. God answered him. This is that the good was. He said he said, "Vayi Noam." It said Moses said, "May the pleasantness of God be on us. That she should be a blessing from above, and this is the blessing of the commandments that we make on every commandment. Bruch Melech Olam. We make God a king of the world. That there should be much blessing and and a flow of godliness and shachar from the upper worlds into the lower worlds. That's the purpose of Judaism, is to make this world healthy and perfect. And here's going to be the raising of the dead eventually. And this is accomplished by means of the commandments. And inside of the commandments is this awareness of the goodness of God, which is the love of God brought by Aaron. And these, so the commandments and learning the Torah, we said before, become the garments of Aaron. They are garments of this love and appreciation of God. The tachlis v'sova bracha, in the end, the whole purpose and the goal of every blessing we say, we're supposed to say in Judaism 100 blessings every day. The purpose of this blessings is Gilui, to reveal God's kingship in the world. Melech Olam, to make God a king of the world. Malchus Kolamim, that God is the king of all the worlds. So we say in our prayers, Ein Kelokeinu, there's nothing like our God. The God of Judaism is not like any other gods that everybody worships. Everybody worships, all the other religions worship the God. A lot of Jews also, even religious Jews, they worship a God that's spiritual, he's far away. And we're saying that here Chassidut is teaching us, of course, God is spiritual. There's no doubt about it, but it's much more than that. That's a very small picture. God creates the spiritual. The spiritual is just a creation of God. And the goal of the spiritual is so that we should appreciate this physical world. And we should draw the creator into the physical creation. The physical creation is more valuable to the creator, to God, than the spiritual creation. And that's the idea of the physical commandments. And that's why we make a blessing, Melech Olam, God, you are the king of the world, means this physical world. This is the garment. Hashem Melech Geus, like it says, God is a king, and he puts on a garment of highness, like Mordechai, like we're coming to Purim. Mordechai, he came in front of the king with a garment of kingship. Shemidid Malchuto, that King Achashverosh realized suddenly that he himself was not the king of the world, that the God of the Jews is the king of the whole universe. And Mordechai, who was the Moses of his generation, he went out. This is after the whole thing of miracle of Purim. Then in the end, it says Mordechai went out with the garments of kingship. What he didn't make him the king. He went out with the kingship of God. What does it mean that God is the king? He's creating everything. And he's creating everything for a purpose. Me and you, everyone. This is the garment for God's life force, chachmaso, and God's chachmato, and his will, and all of God's aspects, which are drawn down and revealed with a tremendous addition and a tremendous, bounty of light from above the whole order of creation. This is the level. This is the blessing that we bless. And the blessing, when we bless on the commandment, this is adding even more. So really, for every commandment, it's supposed to have three things: action, speech, and thought. The action is doing the commandment. Whatever commandment that you do, even if it's a commandment from the rabbis. You make kiddush on Shabbat, you give charity, like I just did, you put on a talit, you keep Shabbat. That's the action. That's the action. The thought is the intention. That's what we're learning about here. And the speech is the blessing that we make. So that's one aspect of the garments. Those are the garments that Moses made, namely that the commandments draw down the garments of Aaron that Moses made. Those are the aspect of the commandments that they draw godliness into the world. Like Moses did, he was drawn out of the water. Madriga Sheni is the second. We said there are three people that make these garments: Moses and the artisans, Chachmei Lev, and everybody. Moses, we just explained. The commandments draw godliness down. Madriga Sheni is the second thing of the the commandments, named the garments of Aaron, is Chachmei Lev, the wise men, the wise artisans. What is this? This is another aspect of the commandments. The aspect of Moses is it draws godliness down. What's this aspect of the wise artisans, Chachmei Lev? The wise, inspired artisans, tailors. They're called Chachmei Lev. Why are they called wise-hearted men? Because she'ein le'em elo lev echad, they only have one heart. V'chein is bittul, they're totally surrendered to God's life force, to God's reality. Chachma is the highest of the 10 sefirot. Nifrad, to be separated, feel you're separated from God. Sheish lo shtei levavot means you have two hearts. Allah ne'amar, like it says, atem zonim achareim. It says you are prostituting yourselves after other gods. Zoni means to be prostitute, a prostitute. What's a prostitute? Ideally, a prostitute in the zona is a person, she has a husband, but she's not loyal to him. She's not loyal to him. She's loyal to her husband, but she's not loyal to him alone. Alone. Right? She has her husband, but she likes other people also. Zonim. And of course, a woman that is a prostitute, so it's much more immediate payoff than to be just a loyal wife. You're a loyal wife, you have your family, but a prostitute, she has different men all the time, and she makes money. She makes money off of it, so it's like an immediate payoff. It's the same thing with us, with God. We're all married to God, like we just finished learning. You do the commandments, you're one with God and everything. But, that's sometimes. How do you say? Honesty is the best policy sometimes. Sometimes. But there's other things in the world also. And that's everybody. That's everybody, right? Everybody. You have things in the world that, how do you say, bribe you. Bribe you. All of a sudden, the person loses his temper. All of a sudden, they find that the person is, on whatever is, he goes to, who knows, the Epstein's list. You find out these people that they're receiving tremendous bribes from the Ukraine or something like that. The most honest guy in the world, right? They find out he's a little room in this back room that he, in his house, he does all these sort of, forbidden travesties, whatever he has. And it doesn't have to be so terrible, right? People, they look here, they think this, they try this, they're a little bit crooked over there, they lie a little bit, they cheat a little bit, right? They hate somebody, they forget about that God is the creator. So that's what it means. That's what it means. Chachmei Lev means these are people that only have one heart for God. She'ein adam over avera, it says a person never does a sin unless there comes into a spirit of insanity, shenistalik mimena, that goes away this level of chachma, which is not the case. So let's just take the case of the prostitute. It's a terrible subject they're talking about, but there is such a thing, right? So what is this woman doing? She's getting money for what she's doing, but she's wrecking her whole life. She's wrecking all of her decency and all of her, how do you say, of her the humanness. She's become like an animal, providing the most animalistic and giving into the most animalistic urges that you can have. But you get into it and it's hard to stop. It says that's everybody. Everybody has at least two hearts. At least two hearts. They have for God and they have for themselves. They have for honesty and they have for a little bit of, something on the side. They have for decency and they have for, for love, and they have for, for destruction or for hatred. They had pictures, they just showed pictures of Hitler in his family, nicest guy in the world. Also, these guys, what is this? These the mafia guys and the people in the cartels in America, in South America. They kill people and they slit people's throats. They do all sorts of things. But family, What are you talking about? They're the best, they're the most wonderful fathers and the most wonderful husbands when they're with their family. When they're with the family, they are genuinely devoted to their mother, and they cry for their parents. They'll do anything for their brothers and for this, until it comes to something else. So, are they genuine or are they not genuine? It says, well, some of the times they're genuine, and everybody does that. Those are just blatant examples, right? Everybody has things that make you depressed. And if you really truly felt godliness, you would. Getting depressed is a natural thing, but it would, you get depressed for a minute, for an hour, who knows, less. You would get angry for a second, but you're not, because you give into these natural things. It says that's the reason, because your heart tells you what to do, so you do what you want. That's this whole insane woke movement that they almost won the elections in America. Tens of millions of people in America, that they really believe you just have to do whatever you want to. Whatever your heart tells you to do, that's what you should do. You can't, I had to say, well, I want it all and I want it now. That's the nature of a person's heart. It's very rare to find a person that doesn't have this to some degree, that he's selfish. Everybody is. It says, but there are some people that are leivechad, that they only have one heart for God. And these are the ones that, this is another aspect of the commandments. On that, it says, Asher Maleotiv, Ruach Chachma. It says, these people, that they are filled with the spirit of Chachma. Chachma is pure life, godly life. That you feel that your life is coming from God. And it's the same God who's giving the Torah. Liot Nishpa Alav Ruach Chachma, Mi Et Ruta de Leila, to be from an arousal from above. Al Yedei Et Ruta, by the means of the Chachme Lev, the wise men. Therefore, Asu Bigdei Aaron, they could make the garments of Aaron to make him holy, that also that they could make the garments of Aaron to be holy, this upper holiness, by means of drawing down Chachma v'Ratzon Yisbarech me'achar, because they betelim, because they are totally surrendered to God. And that's the hint over here, to be surrendered to God. And like we said so many times, we usually say, sorry, I'm sorry, I didn't see it. You were waiting. I'm sorry, I didn't see you were waiting here. And to be surrendered to God doesn't mean that you lose your identity. It's like you're playing in anything. Surrender is harmony. It's harmony. Sports, especially of a sports team, everybody devotes themselves to the goal, right? To the goal, whatever the goal is. A hockey team, a basketball, you're in an orchestra. Everyone devotes themselves to the music. That's called bittul. That's called surrender. You surrender what you want to do to what's right, to what's proper in the situation. Okay, then we have, so let's go next page. If so, the garments of Aaron, what do we say? Aaron is this tremendous love for God. He has to have garments. What are the garments? The garments were made by three different groups three different sources for the garments. One of them is Moses, one is the wise people of wise heart, and the third one is everybody. Moses' main thing is drawing down godliness from a source which is totally above all creation, bringing godliness into the world. The wise men of heart, that's the effect that it has on us. The garments of the commandments and the love which is inside of them, they cause us to be totally surrendered, to be totally harmonious with God. Have only one heart for the truth, for honesty, for genuineness. Madrega Shlishi is the third group that made the garments of Aaron, namely the commandments. Hu bechinas asu. This is all the Jewish people. The Lokasuva doesn't say that they have to be holy. Elastam, it doesn't say the garments to being holy. It just says to make the garments for the Kohen. Shu bechinas asiyat mitzvahs. This is talking about the level of doing the commandments. This is going to be really relevant for all of us. This is doing the commandments, Maisios Bastam, ordinary, from normal love. Okay, so what's the Rebbe talking about here? There's three aspects of the commandments. The commandments, those are the garments of Aaron. They're supposed to be filled with love. So we have, at least they're the vessels for love. They're the vessels for this tremendous love of God. So there's three aspects to the commandments. One of them is the aspect that Moses contributes. That's that when you do a commandment, it draws down from the essence of God into this world. God becomes the groom, and this world becomes the bride. A wedding makes a wedding, and that's hinted at when we say the blessing, Asher Kiddishanu b'mitzvot, that you married us and made us holy. Kiddushin means to marry and to be holy with your commandments. We draw godliness into the world. The second one is that it enables us to be totally surrendered to the Creator. That's what's called the Chachmei Lev, surrender, that we have love for God. And the third level is doing the commandments with a natural love that every Jew has alone. You stop somebody in the street, would you like to put on tefillin? And he says, okay, I'll put on tefillin. Usually I don't put on, I'll put on. And even if he usually does, but he forgot, but he's putting tefillin on in a public place, right? Public place. He says, why would he do it? Why does he do it? He's not doing it in order to go to heaven. He's not doing it in order to save his life, whatever. He's doing it. I mean, he could be, but generally that's not the reason why. He does it just because he loves God, and he doesn't even know how much he loves God. It's a inside, internal, natural thing. By every Jew, it's natural that he loves God. Nevertheless, even though they do the commandments with no noticeable intention of drawing godliness down or being surrendered and one with God, they just do the natural commandments because they're Jews. Nevertheless, in Mamshichin, they draw down an upper garment of this love. Lavush Malchut, a garment of kingship, God's kingship. Sum Tasim Alecha Melech. A person that he puts on tefillin, and he has any awareness what he's doing. He's not just doing it automatically just because he did it yesterday and he has to put on every day. He thinks about it for even 1 second. Or like I say, a person, you stop him in the middle of the street, he puts on tefillin. For sure, he's putting his mind on it. It's a new thing. That person afterwards, it's a little bit more difficult for him to be dishonest or to lose his temper or to be cruel or to be a liar, to cheat or to lie. It's a little more difficult. It doesn't take away his free will. But that's even the normal, regular person in the street. There is no real intention when he's putting on the tefillin, except I'm doing a commandment. Chabad, that's what it means. He does it with what's called Kabbalat Ol Malchut Shamayim. He's doing the yoke of God. Jews do it. That's what God wants. I'll do it. He doesn't know what God is. He doesn't know what a Jew is. He just knows I'm a Jew, and God told me to do it. It's a how do you say, a natural thing for a Jew. Does it b'shleimus with the leiv, the nefesh ne'ut sofa dechilasum, because the end, and as the simple Jew is doing the commandment with no real intention at all, that really reaches the essence of God. That the garment that says this draws down on its own an upper blessing of God. Even if you're not a big tzaddik, you don't have any idea. Al-Zeh never says so. Therefore, it says each person according to his blessing. Every single Jew is different, and every single Jew draws down a blessing when they do any commandment. And by means of this is drawn down also the upper emotions of God. That's what all the Jewish people, they brought the different offerings into the temple, because every Jew, even the most simple of Jew that hasn't reached the level of Aaron, and he hasn't reached the level of a complete pure heart, he's just is a natural Jew. Every one of them was able to bring the ingredients, the donations to build this tabernacle, the holy temple. Okay, so what have we learned? We've learned that a person that is aware of what God really is a tremendous love is revealed. And this love was opened up by Aaron. He was the one that opened the path, the door, that this love is accessible to every Jew. But not every Jew has the talent to bring it. And that's why it says the garments of Aaron, which that's the commandments. That's why you have the commandments. There's 3 different levels in the commandments. One level is for big tzaddikim. They draw godliness down into the world, make the world holy. The other one is for people, Jews who are working on themselves, but they have only one heart for God. And the third level is even for a normal Jew, that they don't draw God, they don't know about godliness, and they don't have one heart for God, but they do the commandments from a simple love of a natural, innate love that every Jew has for God. And this is really the whole main point of it, the action of the commandments. that you're doing what God wants because God wants. Okay, now we're going to start another mimer, and let's tune off for this 1 second, and we'll tune in. 1 minute. Can we do this? No, it doesn't work. Okay, I'll have to go like this and go like